playmakers all over the place on offense. Sure things at running back, wide receiver to the most part, but certainly Isaiah Spiller. And then on defense, rock solid despite a couple key losses. So it's quarterback and offensive line. Jimbo Fisher, and even going back to Kevin Sumlin, had built some of the better offensive lines in college football for a number of years. But with 3 starters lost, the move with Kenyon Green, just maybe some uncertainty that's going to tie into the quarterback comfort back there in the pocket.
Yeah, when this actually goes back to another point that Jimbo Fisher made after the spring game, was somebody asked him about quarterbacks, and he said, I'm not worried about the quarterbacks. I'm worried about everything around the quarterbacks, whether it be offensive line, whether it be receiver. When you look at the offensive line, I think that is a big question mark. And, you mentioned Kenyon Green. He's going to be making the move out to left tackle. And I think that move will be I don't think he's one to worry about. It might take him a game or two to settle in, just the adjustments and playing a new position. But I think ultimately he'll be fine. Really interested to see what Akinola Akunbi does. He's a guy that, when I went down for the camp last month, he looks in phenomenal shape and looks really, really, really good with a year now of strength and conditioning, and his body just looks ready to kind of step in. So he's a guy I know kind of in that fighting for one of those guard positions. Layden Robinson's another guy that has been on campus now for a little bit, and he impressed when he got some action last year, late in the year. And so I think he's another guy that when you start looking at how this offensive line is going to come together, those 2 guys are key. And then obviously Jameer Johnson. They brought him in from Tennessee last year. The big thing I think with him, and I know there's probably a question about how is he going to look, how is he going to fit into the offense, but he comes in with a lot of SEC experience, and I think that's really valuable when you consider, losing 4 guys on the offensive line from last year. You wanted just a guy that knows how to play in the league, has faced those sorts of defenders before, and can at least provide some stability at the offensive line. And then Luke Matthews, I think the key with him really, he's kind of the guy that they're looking at center, but he's just got to stay healthy. I think that's the biggest question with him. He's battled some injuries. And if you look at those 5 guys along the offensive line, I think, you could mix in Bryce Foster, looks ready to go already, but, you'd love to give him a chance to maybe, get some time to settle in and get into a strength and conditioning program. But the offensive line, really, they've just got to find 5 guys that can click together, and that'll be the biggest thing during fall camp and one of the biggest question marks on the offensive side.
So, Andrew, with the classes coming in under Jimbo Fisher being as strong as they are, do you anticipate anybody from the 21 class being any kind of a factor along the offensive front, even if they don't get a start, that they could be an impact second-level person?
I think Bryce Foster is probably the one. I think looking at I know Jordan Moko looks kind of the part, just from a body standpoint. I mean, I saw him at the camp too, and he looks like he could step out there right away, but he's still adjusting to the game of football, and so I think patience is going to be required with him. I think that's a lot to ask from, basically coming over from Australia and immediately stepping in and being asked to contribute. Maybe later in the year once he starts to kind of pick up those sorts of things. From a body standpoint, I mean, he looks ready to go. And if we talk about the first guy you want stepping off the bus when you go on a place, Jordan Moko seems like the type of guy that you want stepping off right away. Bryce Foster is probably the other one. I think Ruben Fothery probably needs a year to redshirt. He's got great size at 6'8", but I think he needs to strengthen the lower half of his body a little bit. I think Matthew Wyckoff also needs, a year in a strength and conditioning program, and just to, pick up some things. And I would say the same for Remington Strickland. So Bryce Foster is really the one that if you look at it like a guard or maybe backup center, he plays all over the line. So he's a guy I could see factoring in maybe in like that 6-7 spot, that when if an injury happens and you need him to go in, because he is just, we know Jimbo Fisher loves to run the ball, and Bryce Foster is just a mauler, is the way I would probably describe it. I mean, he physically is ready to go.
Foster, the number 5 rated offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman out of this last class, top 65 player in the country, according to the 247 Sports Composite. And you look at Foster, you look at Fatherly, 2 more of those prospects coming out of that Katy, Richmond, Texas area that provides a ton of talent for Texas A&M.
Really huge offensive line class when you consider, I mean, they're having to replace a lot from last year, and those are 2 guys when you start looking 3-4 years down the road in the future. I mean, those were just super important lands, especially last class when, you're kind of trying to remake the offensive line.